Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Echo of Life. Let's start. There is a quiet moment nearly every deeply thoughtful person encounters, yet seldom discusses. Subtle, nearly invisible. It happens not in a moment of triumph or learning, but in an ordinary pause, sitting alone in a quiet space, or walking home after a long day, when you realize the very quality others admire has also, quietly, created a space between you and them. You perceive things differently. You notice what others miss. You comprehend ideas more swiftly than you can emotionally absorb them. At first, this feels like a gift, an extra lens, a sharpened sense of the world. But with time, you begin to sense something else, something weighty that no one mentioned. The sharper your mind becomes, the lonelier life can feel. Because deep thought isn't just about solving puzzles. It's about perceiving everything. Patterns, motivations, contradictions, unspoken tensions, often long before anyone else becomes aware they exist. When your mind moves faster than the moment you're living in, it creates a quiet distance between you and the rest of the world. Not from a desire for separation, but because your brain is already several steps ahead, imagining possibilities, predicting outcomes, questioning meanings most people don't pause to consider. It's like being in a room full of conversation while your consciousness stands just outside the doorway, listening, analyzing, observing, but never fully stepping inside. If you've ever been called insightful, gifted, or mature beyond your years, you might recognize this feeling. And perhaps you've struggled to name it, because society celebrates intellectual ability so loudly that it feels almost wrong to admit there might be a quiet toll attached to it. But there is a hidden cost, and it surfaces in ways you feel deeply, even if unspoken. Maybe it appears as the pressure to always grasp things immediately, or the expectation that you should make the right decisions simply because you know better, or that subtle frustration when you explain something clearly, only to be met with looks that suggest you're speaking another language. Or perhaps it's the peculiar blend of empathy and detachment you feel, understanding others' emotions with clarity, yet struggling to express your own with the same ease. You start to wonder, if deep thought is meant to help you, why does it sometimes make everything feel more complicated? Growing up, people may have praised you for having the right answers, but no one taught you what to do when those answers begin turning into deeper questions. No one prepared you for the feeling of your own awareness gently pulling you away from the world around you. Because while people appreciate the outcomes of a keen mind, the ideas, the creativity, the clarity, they often misunderstand the inner experience of it. The reality is, people who think deeply often carry invisible burdens. Like the burden of thinking too much, not because you want to, but because your mind doesn't know how to stop. The world enters you at full volume. Every small detail, every subtle shift in tone, every hidden implication, your mind gathers them instinctively, like a net catching leaves in a stream. And before you know it, you're processing what most people walk right past. You notice the hesitation before someone speaks. You sense discomfort behind a smile. You detect patterns in behavior without trying. And sometimes you wish you didn't, because once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you understand, you can't return to innocence. Deep thought doesn't just sharpen your intellect, it sharpens your awareness. Even in moments where softness would have been easier. Then there's the burden of being misunderstood. You explain something and hear, you're overthinking it. You share a reflection and are told it's too complicated. You try to simplify and it still feels as though you're speaking from a place others can't quite reach. After a while, you may begin to hold back parts of yourself just to blend in. Not because you want to dim your light, but because constantly slowing your thoughts to match the pace around you becomes exhausting. You become fluent in translating yourself, a skill you never meant to master. But here's something many never realize. The more deeply you think, the more likely you are to experience a kind of cognitive solitude. It's not quite emotional loneliness, nor social isolation. It's the feeling of living from the inside out, observing the world move to a rhythm that doesn't match your internal one. It's the quiet sense that your mind is always elsewhere, thinking in spirals instead of straight lines, questioning what others take for granted, feeling intensely even when you stay silent. It's the sensation of being slightly out of phase with everything around you. Most deeply thoughtful people don't struggle with comprehension. They struggle with belonging. They struggle to quiet the instinct to analyze every feeling. They struggle under the pressure of always being the capable one. They struggle with the fear that showing confusion or doubt will disappoint the expectations others have built around them. And they struggle with the quiet truth that deep understanding doesn't make life easier. It often makes it clearer. And clarity can be what hurts the most. Because once you see the world with heightened clarity, its contradictions, its flaws, its inconsistencies, it becomes harder to live on the surface. You're always sinking deeper, thinking deeper, feeling deeper. You become the person others come to for insight, but rarely the person others truly understand. And sometimes, the very quality that makes you perceptive becomes what keeps you awake at night. Yet there's more. Deep thought also brings emotional challenges rarely discussed, like the difficulty of quieting your mind. The way your thoughts can spiral not because something is wrong, but because your mind is perpetually searching for meaning. Or the way you replay conversations, analyzing what was said, what was meant, what could have been understood differently. Sometimes you're not anxious, you're just thinking at a depth others mistake for worry. There's also the hidden pressure of potential. When people tell you you're capable, talented, gifted, those words don't land softly. They become expectations. Doors you're meant to walk through, standards you're meant to uphold. And when you fall short, even a little, you feel the weight of that gap more acutely than anyone else. Because deeply thoughtful people often fear not failure itself, but failing to become who they believe they could be. This can lead to a quiet, self-imposed perfection, where even small mistakes feel amplified. When you grasp things quickly, people assume you'll grasp everything quickly. When you excel in one area, they assume you'll excel in all. And suddenly, your way of thinking becomes less of a trait and more of an obligation. But among these hidden costs, perhaps the most poignant is the way deep thought shapes your emotional world. Not by making you cold or detached, but quite the opposite. Many who think deeply feel emotions intensely. They simply express them differently. They intellectualize pain. They rationalize fear. They analyze feelings that might be easier to simply feel. It's not a lack of emotion. It's feeling so much that showing it isn't easy. Your mind gives you the ability to understand your emotions, but not always the ability to sit comfortably inside them. You know why you feel something long before you know how to soothe it. You can explain your sadness before you can soften it. You can articulate your loneliness before you can comfort it. And so you live inside a mind that feels everything clearly, yet processes it all in solitude. This creates a strange paradox. The more insightful you are, the harder it can be to ask for help. Because you've been the problem solver, the responsible one, the person who figures things out. Even when you need support, a part of you whispers, you should be able to handle this alone. But depth of thought doesn't remove human needs. It doesn't erase longing. It doesn't make you immune to confusion, heartbreak, doubt, or fear. It simply gives you more language to describe them. And sometimes more language makes the feelings more intricate, not less. There's also a quiet ache many rarely voice. The longing for someone who understands you without requiring you to simplify yourself. Someone who can follow your thoughts without needing you to slow down. Someone who listens not just to your words, but to the meaning beneath them. Someone who feels like a home for your mind, not just your heart. You don't need someone who thinks identically to you. You just need someone willing to meet your depth instead of retreating from it. But for many, that kind of connection feels rare. And when something feels rare, you start to question if it's possible at all. Yet, even with all of this, the solitude, the pressure, the emotional complexity, there is something profoundly human about the experience of a deep thinking mind. Because beneath every swift insight, every observation, every quiet moment of reflection, there's a person trying to navigate a world not always designed for depth. You are not too much. Your mind is not a burden. Your thoughts are not an inconvenience. They are simply the reflection of a consciousness that feels alive in a way that can sometimes overwhelm you. A consciousness that sees the world with both sharpness and softness, that has spent years balancing understanding with belonging. And even if no one has ever said it to you directly, there is nothing wrong with you. What you're experiencing is the reality of a complex mind living in a world that often prefers simplicity. There is more to this story. Because the hidden cost of deep thought doesn't only come from how others see you, it also comes from how you see yourself. There comes a point when you realize your greatest misunderstanding wasn't about the world around you, but about your own expectations. For years, you may have assumed that greater understanding should make everything clearer, simpler, easier. But the truth is, the more you comprehend, the more aware you become of how much remains unknown. Depth of thought doesn't shrink the world, it expands it. And sometimes that expansion feels like standing before a vast landscape, unsure where to step next. You begin to see possibilities everywhere. Every path branches into 10 more. Every decision opens new questions. Every idea leads to layers you didn't expect to uncover. And while this curiosity is part of what makes your mind extraordinary, it can also become a quiet source of overwhelm. You start to feel not the pressure of choosing wrong, but the pressure of choosing at all. Because when you can imagine so many potential futures, the present can feel too narrow to contain them all. This creates a peculiar form of paralysis, not from a lack of direction, but from an excess of vision. You don't struggle because you're lost, but because you see too clearly. You perceive the cost of every choice. You feel the weight of every possibility. And sometimes you stand still simply because your mind is crowded with options. Then there's the quiet burden of being the one who gets it. Throughout your life, you may have been the person who understood things sooner than others. Teachers praised it. Friends relied on it. Family expected it. Over time, that pattern becomes internalized. You start to believe your worth is tied to your answers, not your questions. To your strength, not your uncertainty. To your clarity, not your confusion. So when you face moments where you don't know what to do, moments every human has, your mind turns inward not with compassion, but with critique. You think, I should be able to figure this out, even when the challenge isn't intellectual but emotional. Even when the solution lies not in logic, but in allowing yourself to be human. Deeply thoughtful people often struggle most when life asks them to be emotional instead of analytical. When clarity comes from vulnerability, not deduction. When the answer is connection, not insight. And because you've built an identity around being capable, you might deny yourself the grace of being supported. Yet one of the most vital truths you can learn is this: depth of thought does not replace humanity. It does not remove the need for comfort, patience, reassurance, or companionship. It does not grant immunity from the heart's complexity. In fact, the heart may be the one place where the analytical mind meets its match. Because feelings don't operate on logic. They don't respond to analysis. They don't unfold in neat, solvable steps. They twist, shift, and contradict themselves. And for someone with a deeply reflective mind, that unpredictability can be unsettling. Not because you don't feel, but because you feel intensely and try to understand too quickly. Sometimes, deeply thoughtful people struggle in relationships not from lack of care, but from caring so much that they overthink every detail. They question their own worth. They replay moments, searching for meaning behind every word and pause. They analyze what they feel instead of trusting it. And this can create distance, not from a lack of emotion, but from a fear of overwhelming others with the depth of what they feel. There's also the silent challenge of connecting with others when your mind naturally gravitates toward substance. You crave conversations that explore ideas, emotions, memories, meaning. You want dialogue that feels layered and alive. But the world often operates on the surface: small talk, simplicity, routine. And while there is beauty in simplicity, it can sometimes feel like you're a novel in a world of headlines. You don't want to be complicated. You don't want to be too much. You just want to be understood without having to conceal your inner world. Because such moments of understanding are rare, you may learn to keep parts of yourself tucked away, revealing them only to those who feel safe enough to receive them. Perhaps the deepest cost is the expectation you place on yourself. Not the one others place on you, but the one you carry quietly inside. The expectation to always be composed, to always have a plan, to always maintain perspective, to always navigate life with precision. But depth of thought doesn't protect you from human confusion. It doesn't shield you from heartbreak, disappointment, mistakes, or fear. It only gives you more language to describe them. And sometimes that language makes the experience sharper, not softer. There are moments when your way of thinking becomes a double-edged sword. You understand the risks too well. You foresee endings before beginnings have a chance to blossom. You comfort others with wisdom you rarely apply to yourself, because your mind critiques your own emotions more harshly than anyone else ever would. And yet, beneath all this complexity, there is something profoundly beautiful about having a mind that refuses to settle for the surface. Because while deep thought comes at a cost, it also brings a quiet, rare depth that shapes how you experience life. You notice beauty in what others overlook, the small details in a conversation, the unspoken truths behind a smile, the way a single moment can change a person's entire day. You see meaning in patterns, stories in glances, lessons in mistakes. You feel the world not as a series of events, but as a landscape of connections. You carry empathy not in waves, but in oceans. This depth, while sometimes overwhelming, also grants you access to a kind of insight that can transform not only your own life, but the lives of those around you. Deeply thoughtful people often become the quiet observers, the reflective minds, those who feel the world intensely and turn that feeling into understanding. And yet, many carry a silent fear, the fear that their mind sets them too far apart, that they are destined to walk through life slightly alone, that depth is a barrier rather than a bridge. But this fear is rarely accurate. The world needs people who think like you, people who question, imagine, and understand complexities others overlook. The world needs minds that hold both sensitivity and clarity, both logic and emotion, both awareness and compassion. The real challenge is not to become less thoughtful. It is to become more gentle with yourself, to allow your depth to be a tool for understanding, not a weapon for self-criticism. To let your insight be a doorway to connection, not a reason to withdraw. Because here's the truth. Deep thought is not meant to isolate. It's meant to illuminate. It's meant to help you see the world more clearly so you can experience it more fully. It's meant to help you understand yourself so you can move through life with more purpose. It's meant to help you navigate your emotions, not avoid them. But there is one more hidden cost rarely spoken of. The cost of being highly aware in a world that often prefers simplicity. When your mind naturally detects patterns and implications, you become sensitive to what others dismiss. You notice inconsistencies, emotional shifts, unspoken tensions. And while this awareness is a strength, it can also be draining when the world expects you to accept things at face value. There will be times when your understanding makes you feel older than your years. Times when you feel you've lived multiple emotional lifetimes in a single day. Times when your empathy feels too vast for your own heart. Times when your thoughts feel too loud for the moment you're in. But none of this means you're difficult or detached. It means your mind is awake. It means your heart is engaged. It means you are not drifting through life half-aware. You are fully present, even in moments that challenge you. And perhaps the most healing truth you can embrace is that depth of thought does not require perfection. It does not require certainty. It does not require constant control. Sometimes the strongest thing a reflective mind can do is let go. Let go of the pressure, the expectations, the belief that you must always be ahead. Because the real gift of a thoughtful mind is not in thinking faster than others. It's in seeing deeper than the moment. It's in recognizing meaning where others see routine. It's in understanding emotions with a clarity that helps you grow, not just analyze. You don't have to carry the world alone simply because you understand it more clearly. You don't have to solve every problem simply because you see it before others do. You don't have to hide your depth simply because it's rare. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to feel uncertain. You are allowed to be human in the places where your intellect has made you feel responsible. In moments of doubt, remember this. The mind you have is not a burden. It is a lantern. It lights up things others may walk past. It reveals possibilities others don't consider. It uncovers truths that help you navigate your path with greater awareness. And while that light sometimes makes the world feel heavier, it also allows you to see beauty with a level of detail few ever experience. The hidden cost of deep thought is real, but so is the hidden beauty. The beauty of growing not just in knowledge, but in wisdom. You are not alone in these experiences, and you are not meant to walk through life feeling separated from others. The world is full of people who think deeply, feel intensely, question their place, and seek meaning. You may not always see them, but they exist. And when you meet them, whether in friendship, love, or even brief passing moments, you will realize that depth does not isolate forever. It attracts the kind of minds that resonate with yours, however quietly. And when that happens, something extraordinary unfolds. You begin to see that your way of thinking was never the thing that separated you. It was the very thing leading you toward the people who would finally feel like home. Because the ultimate truth is this: the cost of deep thought is real, but the reward is equally real. And that reward is the ability to live a life filled with depth, meaning, curiosity, connection, and a profound awareness of what it means to be human. Your mind is not a weight. It is a gift, a rare one, a remarkable one that comes with complexity, but also with immense beauty. And as you move forward, the greatest transformation will come not from trying to change your mind, but from learning to trust it, to embrace the way it thinks, to honor the way it feels, to allow it to be both analytical and emotional, both logical and sensitive, both structured and free. Because in the end, deep thought is not about being ahead of others. It's about being aligned with yourself. And once you understand that, the hidden cost begins to feel less like a burden and more like a path toward a deeper life, a truer self, a world where your mind is not something you carry alone, but something you share gently, authentically, courageously with those who appreciate it most. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe my channel. For more update,